For years, Blue Öyster Cult was rock and roll's best kept secret. They were these intellectual outsiders making music that was just too weird, too heavy, and too cryptic for mainstream radio. The fans weren't just fans, they were a loyal tribe, insiders who got the occult references and sci-fi poetry woven into the band's thunderous hard rock. But by the mid-70s, after 3 beloved studio albums, the band was at a junction. The patience of the record label was wearing thin. Cult status was cool, but it didn't pay the bills. With their future on the line, they made a massive gamble. They tossed out their entire creative process for something new, a decision that would not only save their career, but also create one of the most iconic and unexpected rock anthems of the decade. This is the story of how Blue Öyster Cult rolled the dice and hit the jackpot. To really get the gamble, you have to really get the band. Blue Öyster Cult didn't just pop up overnight. They were forged in the late 1960s on Long Island, New York. They started out as a soft white underbelly with a core lineup of guitarist Buck Dharma, Oyster, drummer Albert Bouchard, and keyboardist Alan Lanier. After cycling through a few names and even recording unreleased albums, they finally landed on Blue Öyster Cult in 1971. The name was plucked from a poem by their manager and visionary guide, Sandy Pearlman, and described a secret group of aliens steering Earth's destiny. This wasn't just some cool sounding name, it was their mission statement, with singer Eric Bloom and bassist Joe Bouchard completing the classic lineup. Blue Öyster Cult was branded as the thinking man's hard rock band. Their lyrics, often written by Pearlman and rock critic Richard Meltzler, were a wild tapestry of mysticism, history, and otherworldly horror. This was bolted to a sound that was heavier than most radio rock, but way more complex than their peers. Their hook and cross logo, a symbol for the planet and Titan Saturn, was the perfect emblem for their enigmatic sound. Between 1972 and 1974, they dropped a trio of albums called their Black and White period, Blue Öyster Cult, Tyranny and Mutation, and the fan favorite, Secret Treaties. These records built their identity and a fiercely dedicated following. They were an absolute powerhouse live, a fact they proved with a 1975 double live album, On Your Feet or On Your Knees. That record finally gave them a taste of chart success, climbing to number 22 in the US. It was a sign of life, proof that the tribe was growing, but that success was built on touring, not hit singles. Their label, Columbia Records, had been unusually patient, but everyone knew the clock was ticking. For a band to survive, the next album had to be different. The pressure was on, and the band knew their old way of doing things wasn't going to cut it. Their previous albums were born from jam sessions, with songs hammered into shape collectively. For their 4th studio album, they tried a radical new approach, a gamble that completely decentralized their creative process. Each member bought a 4-track home recorder, which allowed them to write and arrange entire songs on their own. This wasn't just a small adjustment, it changed the whole dynamic. They went from being a collective hive mind to 5 individual creators, each walking into the studio with fully formed ideas. This new method led them to the record plant in New York in 1976 with a batch of songs that were more diverse and personal than anything they'd done before. The album's title, Agents of Fortune, was suggested by the producer and was a nod to a tarot card deck, a fitting name for a record that felt like a total roll of the dice. The individual approach produced a wide spectrum of music. Alan Lanier's partner at the time, the punk icon Patti Smith, contributed lyrics and vocals to the haunting track, The Revenge of Vera Gemini, a song she co-wrote with Albert Bouchard. Here's a clip of that song. But the album's true ace in the hole came from guitarist Buck Dharma. The story goes like this. Buck Dharma was diagnosed with a heart arrhythmia in his younger years, which made him contemplate his own mortality and fear dying young. This led to the creation of Don't Fear the Reaper, and here's a clip of that opening guitar riff. This 1976 hit was inspired by his thoughts on life after death and a desire to create a love song where love transcends physical existence. He combined the hypnotic, arpeggiated guitar riff with lush, layered harmonies. The lyrics were still poetic, using Romeo and Juliet to symbolize eternal love, and his 40,000 men and women every day was a rough guess at the world's daily mortality rate, not a call for suicide, as it was sometimes misinterpreted. It was pure Blue Öyster Cult philosophy, but smuggled inside a package that was undeniably melodic and catchy as hell. This was a song that would define the entire gamble. Agents of Fortune was released on May 21st, 1976. The impact was immediate. The album climbed to number 29 on the Billboard 200, a huge commercial success for them, and it was the first album to ever chart in the UK. But it was the single, Don't Fear the Reaper, that blew the doors clean off. It soared to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, turning Blue Öyster Cult from cult heroes into a household name. The thinking man's hard rock band was now a top 40 act. Suddenly, they were jumping from theaters to headlining arenas. The song was everywhere. Its eerie, beautiful melody was perfect for movies, most famously in John Carpenter's 1978 horror masterpiece, Halloween, and later in films like Scream. Author Stephen King was also captivated by the song. He quoted its lyrics at the beginning of his post-apocalyptic epic, The Stand. Don't Fear the Reaper wasn't just a hit song anymore. It was a cultural touchstone. The song's legacy took an unpredictable and hilarious turn in 2000 thanks to Saturday Night Live's sketch, the More Cowbell sketch starring Christopher Walken as a wild-eyed producer and Will Ferrell as a fictional, over-the-top cowbell player became a pop culture phenomenon. The line, I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell, became part of the global language. While the sketch was a joke, the band embraced it, realizing it had introduced them to a whole new generation. Buck Dharma said that while it was bizarre, the sketch ultimately revived interest in their music without hurting the song's serious intent. In fact, the band, which hadn't used the cowbell live in years, felt they had to add it back into their shows, though they reportedly had the band fans from bringing their own cowbells. There's another song I want to mention. It doesn't get talked enough about. Is that right? The song is ETI, Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Let me play a clip of that first. It's a rock track exploring UFO encounters, government cover-ups, and the occult. The song was co-written by guitarist Donald Buck Dharma Rosser and lyricist Sandy Pearlman. The song blends science fiction with a bedtime story for the children of the damned theme. The lyrics focus on someone who has uncovered the awful truth about extraterrestrial life involving men in black agents, warning them to stay silent. The music was originally an instrumental track called No Traffic before being adapted for the album. Also features cryptic references to historical occultism, such as Balthazar, which is often associated with Magi or occult figures, and King in Yellow, reference to early Gothic horror literature. The song reflects the 1970s fascination with UFO sightings and conspiracy theories. But in the end, the gamble paid off, breaking their old formula and empowering each member as a songwriter to lead to a landmark album that blended the signature heavy psych rock with polished, radio-friendly hits. Agents of Fortune didn't just give Blue Öyster Cult a chart-topping single, it cemented their legacy. They had found a way to walk the treacherous path from the fringes to the mainstream without selling their soul. They proved that sometimes the biggest risk you can take is not taking one at all, and in doing so, they created a timeless anthem that taught a generation of rock fans not to fear the Reaper. Check out this playlist of more Blue Öyster Cult reviews, which should be appearing on the screen right now. Please like the video. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.